So a couple years ago, I went into the studio to record a 4-song EP. I'd call the style instrumental Americana, a style that's usually accompanied with vintage or modern vintage instruments. I thought it'd be a neat idea to use my Fractal AX8, which I'd had for a little over a year, and my Sur Modern, to blend the sentimental music with a more modern approach. When I got to the studio, however, the producer mentioned that he had the real-life amp that I was modeling, which was a Fender Super Reverb, otherwise known as a Fender Super Heavy Reverb. I figured I would adjust my self-imposed challenge of using my Fractal and make another one. And that was to record with no pedal other than a tuner. That was also definitely terrifying. Rather than debate amp model versus real amp with the producer, I just wanted to get good sounds and have a smooth running session. And I figured the producer probably knows his own amps pretty well, so I might as well trust him. A couple of weeks later, that producer called me to play guitar for a client of his who was coming in with some blues-based music. For the session, I figured I'd bring my more Strat-style Sur than the Sur Modern, and I'd bring my pedal board considering I already knew the producer's feelings about amp modelers. Upon opening my pedal board case, I felt a little bad realizing that my pedals had just been collecting dust. Despite that though, after that session the pedals just went right back into hiding for another couple years, until recently. Since that time, I sold my Fractal AX8 and got the FM3, which came out, and that thing sounds amazing. Almost immediately, I was struck with that feeling that can happen when you fall in love with a guitar or a piece of gear a little too much, and you go, what am I going to do if something happens to this thing? I was probably also feeling that way because on one of my last gigs before COVID, there was a guy who was a little too drunk, having a little too good of a time, and spilt a little bit of his beer on my AX8. I almost had a heart attack. Luckily, in that situation, the sound guy came running up with some towels and everything ended up fine, although I wasn't exactly thrilled about being in that situation. The thought of that happening to the FM3 made me start thinking about having a backup rig. I realized that the pedal board that I had just collecting dust had continued to do so for the last couple years, and that I should maybe look into a Strymon Iridium as a way to use those pedals again. And that's exactly what I did. When thinking about building a board, I was looking to make one that had some of the convenience of the Fractal, even though I knew there was going to be less options in terms of amp sounds. For instance, I was fine with the idea of only having 9 amp sounds. 3 Fender, 3 Vox, and 3 Marshall, instead of the hundreds available on the Fractal. But I wanted to make sure I had a great sounding and easy to use reverb and delay setup. I ended up going with the Source Audio Collider, which was great because it was a delay and reverb in the same pedal and had the ability to save presets, which is a convenience I really didn't want to give up. Since pedal technology had increased quite a bit while I was in Fractal-land, I ended up needing a new power supply that was strong enough to power the Collider and the Iridium. That ended up being an easy fix, and I just went from my Pedal Power 2 Plus to a Pedal Power 3. So although I'm sure I'll be moving pedals around, here's the new build. So we got the tuner, compressor, and volume pedal to start, and then I have a GTO overdrive, which sounds good at any gain level really, although I have it set to like a mid-gain thing. After that is the Dude overdrive, which I use for more high-gain stuff, and the combination of the two gets me into some serious shred territory. After that is the RC booster, which is a great sounding EQ and boost. And after that, into the Iridium we go. I haven't been a huge fan of plexi amps in real life, and this pedal does a great job of replicating exactly what a plexi amp is in real life. So for the most part, I've been using the Vox and Fender settings. The Fender Deluxe sounds just like my real-life Fender Deluxe, and the pedals react to it the same way they react to my real-life amp. That was a serious relief and immediately boosted my confidence that this idea was going to work. And after that is the Collider. I have it after the Iridium because when I had it before and I would turn on my gain pedals, everything would get muddy and I didn't really like the sound of it. But as soon as I put it after the Iridium, everything sounded great. So let's listen to some sounds. So it's a bit fun to have this set up, and I can easily see this becoming a main rig for shows, especially when I don't know how far away I am from people's drinks. When it's a nicer venue, I might still prefer the Fractal because it's so much more customizable, although that could also depend on the gig. If nothing else, I'm just happy to have a reliable second rig that keeps me familiar with using pedals and puts those pedals to use as opposed to just leaving them collecting dust. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all next week.